Hi, and welcome to the Introduction to SyraFuse. My name is Roshni Laki, and I am a blended learning specialist at the Highlander Institute, along with being a program manager for the SyraFuse Fellowship. The SyraFuse Fellowship was created as a partnership between the Highlander Institute and the Syracuse City School District. We are currently in our second cohort, and we're excited to welcome you to the SyraFuse family and give you an introduction to the program for the next 1 year. So I'm sure many of you are wondering, what is SyraFuse exactly? SyraFuse is essentially a teacher leadership development program, which trains teachers as change agents for personalized learning across the Syracuse City School District. As I'm sure many of you read in the application materials, SyraFuse recruits Fuse Fellows for a 1-year fellowship, during which fellows will be trained on personalized learning models and best practices, coached on classroom implementation, and supported to establish their own lighthouse classroom to serve as a model of personalized learning instruction in their building and district. That is in essence what the program is all about. The rest of this video will talk about a little bit more of the logistics, the components, and the nuances that put together the whole SyraFuse program. So the history of the SyraFuse program began back in 2013, where the Highlander Institute, which is located in Providence, Rhode Island, began planning out a program that would empower teachers on the ground who are in classrooms every day as champions of change across the state. So in 2013, the Highlander Institute applied for a grant and received a grant to launch the first cohort of the Fuse Rhode Island program in 2014. That year, we welcomed our first cohort of Fuse Fellows into the program and worked across several districts in the Rhode Island state. 2 years later, we decided to expand the Fuse program to its first pilot site in Syracuse, New York, and the first cohort launched in 2016 and ran an 18-month fellowship, which wrapped up this past June in 2017. As we look forward and welcome the second cohort of Syracuse, other states have taken notice, and there are currently several other sites interested in bringing the program to their state. So keep a watch out for other Fuse expansions across the United States. As we mentioned, Fuse Rhode Island was the first program iteration of Fuse. Cohort 1 featured 23 fellows from 13 different districts across the entire state. 4 years later, we just welcomed Cohort 4, which included 27 fellows from 15 districts. In total, we now have 85 fellows in Rhode Island, including alumni, which is an incredible amount of teachers and educators on the ground being the champions of change across the entire state. On the right side, you'll see a map of Rhode Island, which shows where all the fellows are located. This is how many fellows we had in year 1. Fast forward to year 4, and you can see how the map has grown and how the geographic location of all the fellows has also grown. Syracuse Fuse launched in 2016, where we welcomed 17 fellows from 8 different schools. In the map on the right, you can see the different schools where the fellows came from and the number of fellows in each building. As we welcome Cohort 2, we're excited to have 25 fellows from 14 different schools join our team, and we're excited to work with you over the next year as part of the SyraFuse family. One of the main differences you may be wondering between Rhode Island and SyraFuse is the geographical location. So one big difference between the two different programs was that Rhode Island was a program that was developed within one state, and the fellows came from many different districts, whereas Syracuse was a program developed within a district, and the fellows came from many different buildings. So Rhode Island is essentially an inter-district program, where Syracuse is an inter-building approach. The other main difference is that the Rhode Island Fellowship is a 2-year fellowship, whereas the Syracuse Fellowship is a 1-year program. So those are the main differences, with a couple other nuances in terms of how the program runs as well. So then I'm sure the next question on many of your minds is, what will we be doing over this 1 year? That is a great question. This diagram shows the House of SyraFuse, as we call it, which is essentially a scope and sequence and laying out a curriculum for what we're going to be focusing on for the next year. In the House of SyraFuse, you'll notice 5 different pillars, and these 5 pillars define our focus areas for this year, which have been identified by the Syracuse City School District and Highlander Institute. Over the course of the fellowship, we'll be diving into these a bit deeper and exploring each one, and we've also come up with a list of indicators, or which we call look-fors, that will represent the evidence of each one of these pillars in your classroom. We've also developed a walkthrough tool which identifies these 5 pillars or domains and each indicator in each one. And we'll be using this walkthrough tool every time we come visit your classroom and help you to identify where are the points we need to work on and where are the points that your classroom is already excelling in. The 5 pillars of the SyraFuse Fellowship for this year are targeted instruction, data-driven decisions, student ownership, collaboration, and culturally responsive teaching. Let's take a closer look at what each one of these pillars entail. So as we look at each one, these indicators are again what we are looking for as well as supporting you around every time we come into your classroom. When we come in, we'll be using our walkthrough tool only to collect data and give feedback on each one of these. This is not meant to be evaluative in any means. This is meant to be a support system for you and help you identify which places that you can work on and which places that you're already excelling in. So for example, when we come in and talk about targeted instruction, some of the indicators are tasks are supported by clear instructions. Small group instruction is differentiated based on students' needs. Tasks other than teacher-led instruction are differentiated based on student needs. Interactions between students and teachers are positive, supportive, and promote accountable behavior. Now, of course, targeted instruction has many other pieces to it, but we're specifically going to be looking for these and helping to support each fellow around each of these look-fors when we come to the classroom. There are 5 different pillars, so what I would suggest at this point in the video is to pause and read through each one of them. I'm not going to read each indicator. There are 20 in total, broken up into 5 domains. So I would suggest pausing on each one, reading through it, and then pressing play to go to the next slide. Next, we'll be walking through the logistics of the fellowship as well as the timeline for the next year. The logistics can be broken down into 3 main components. The first are monthly meetups. These meetups will be held for 2 hours from 4:30 to 6:30 at the SCSD Teacher Center. The second component are monthly missions, which will be launched on the first of each month and will be delivered on a platform called Canvas, an LMS that we will be exploring later during the bootcamp. The third component is embedded support, during which we'll be coming to your classroom to observe and debrief with you. Over the course of the 10 months of the school year, we need to complete at least 5 cycles of embedded support. So the monthly meetups, which are called face-to-face or F2F, these will occur monthly, and you will receive a Google invite, a calendar invite, to RSVP for each one. Please make sure you RSVP to each calendar invite. This will work on Google Calendar and Microsoft Outlook. So please make sure you RSVP and don't just delete or close the email. As we mentioned in the application, attendance is required at each one of these events. And if you are going to be late or if for some unforeseen circumstance you're not able to attend, please let us know at least 24 hours in advance. Each month, you will also receive a mission, which is basically a playlist and tasks that need to be completed by the end of the month. Missions will be launched on the first of each month in a platform called Canvas, so please remember to log in and check Canvas for your monthly mission on the first. Each month's mission will align to the face-to-face focus for that month. So, for example, if we're focusing on collaboration, the mission will also align to that. Sometimes, if the face-to-face is scheduled for earlier in the month, say October 5th, the mission may be launched early to give you enough time to complete some parts of the mission before the face-to-face. Sometimes there may be part of a mission that you may need to bring with you to the face-to-face since that will be the focus of that month. So in that case, we will launch the mission a little early and we'll be sure to let you know. Embedded support. So as I mentioned, all fellows need to complete at least 5 cycles of embedded support. These cycles consist of classroom observation, debrief with the coach, and reflection. The coaches will be from SESD or Highlander Institute and will be visiting your classroom for at least 2 hours every time we come in. As a note, please know that photos or videos may be taken, so please ensure that you have the media releases for all your students all set. The way to sign up for these are on a Google Doc called the SyraFuse Observation and Debrief Schedule. Please make sure you sign up here, and I'll walk you through how to sign up. So in the schedule, which I'll show to you shortly, please remember to schedule 1.5 to 2 hours for a classroom observation and debrief, preferably back-to-back. Also, if you can, try to coordinate with other fellows in your building, if there are any, and try to choose concurrent time slots. So if there are 3 fellows at Meacham Elementary, try to coordinate so you guys are back-to-back so we don't have to go from building to building and we can cover you all in one day. The time slots on the right side are suggested. So basically those mean that they're listed from 8 to 10, 10 to 12, 12 to 2, and 2 to 4. That's a rough estimate, but if your exact timing for your class schedule is 7:50 to 8:30 and then 8:35 to 9:05 is your debrief time, please change the timing right in that column. Also leave some time to travel between schools. So if we're in one school, we need to get to another school, please try not to run right up against that. Leave a little bit of time of travel in between. Another suggestion that we have, probably for middle or high school teachers, are to try to schedule different classes for each month. While it's certainly helpful to see the same group of students in class every time we come in to see their progress, it's also good to see how your personalized learning model is working or either differentiated based on the group of kids in your classroom. So you don't always want to show us the highest class or your latest class in the day or earliest. Try and mix it up each time so we can help you support each one of your groups of students. Again, elementary, since you have the same group of kids all day, this may not apply to you, but more so for middle and high school. Next, we'll walk you through the schedule just so you can see what it actually looks like. Here's the actual Google Doc that is open to all of you to edit. We've kept this open so you guys can see what other fellows are visiting during that time and seeing if other fellows in your building have already signed up so you can concurrently schedule them back to back. So for example, if you would like us to come in on Wednesday 9/6 and say your class goes from 7:50 to 8:30 is your classroom time, then you have until 9:30 to debrief. Just put in those exact times right there. You can write, for example, Seymour Elementary. Your fellow name could be Kat Stratton. And you can write in here that kindergarten reading class is from 7:50 to 8:30. And then we can do the debrief time from 8:30 to 9:30. Also at Seymour, if you see a fellow has put your name there and you also work in the same building, please go ahead and sign up right back to back so we can put Sasha's name in here. And her class might be right after, so she can do 9:35 to, let's say, 11:05 a.m. So Sasha's teaching first grade ELA class from 9:35 to 10:30 and then debriefing from 10:30 to 11:05. She can put that right in the notes. You also might see this has created some buffer time, so please go ahead and you can add a row in there and write from 11:10 to 12 o'clock is still available, just so people know that they can add in times there. An example of what not to do is, say, for example, if we're already scheduled to go to Grant Middle School from 8 to 10, please don't schedule another visit during that same time. So don't put another school, Lincoln Middle, in from 9:50 to 11:30. So please be cognizant of other times that are already in there. If you have any questions on how to fill the schedule out, or if you need something moved around and really can't adjust your timing, please feel free to always email us and we can communicate with other fellows and try to fit you in. Now, as we mentioned, there are 10 months in the fellowship and 5 visits are required. So that is roughly every other month we'll be coming to your classroom. If you would like us to come more often, please feel free to put us in. As long as we have finished getting to all the fellows at least once every 2 months, we're happy to come by again for a second month to get you some more feedback and observation. Next, taking a look at the timeline. So back in May and June, you guys went through the application process. We received many applicants from across the Syracuse City School District and ultimately selected 25 of you to come join us for this ride. We have boot camp right now going on in August of 2017. And then for the next few months, we're going to be focusing on monthly meetups, missions, and visits as we mentioned. For the first 6 months, we'll be focusing on the 5 pillars that we went over. And then starting in March, we'll be shifting our focus away from the pillars more on peer leadership. Because as we talked about, Fellows are essentially the leaders of this program and across the district, so we'll be shifting more towards focusing on building up your classroom as a lighthouse classroom, inviting colleagues and peers to come visit, and then really setting you up for a leadership role moving on through the next year. Finally, in June of 2018, we'll be doing a Fuse Fest and end-of-year graduation celebration. Other logistics to be included in the fellowship are all fellows will receive a stipend for hours outside of the school day. So that would include, for example, the face-to-face meetups from 4:30 to 6:30. Each fellow also receives flex funds, which are to be used for conferences and events. The way to do this is to submit a flex fund request form in OneDrive at least 1 month in advance, which Manami will approve. Fellows will be provided with a list of suggested personalized learning conferences across the country, such as the Highlander Institute Blended and Personalized Learning Conference happening on April 5th through 7th, 2018 in Providence, Rhode Island. This conference is highly, highly recommended and suggested for you all to attend, so please save the date from now. If you are unable to attend this for something that you already have on your calendar, say a wedding or something already in advance, please let us know and we'll give you a list of other conferences in the area that you could attend, such as NICEGATE or other ones happening on the East Coast. Please make sure you also have media release forms for all students. We'll be capturing photo and video in your classroom and sharing it with other fellows and with your permission in the district, so please make sure you have media release forms. If for any reason a parent does not sign off on their student, please let us know and indicate which students those are, either by letting us know verbally or having them wear a sticker when we come in the classroom so we do not record the student during that time. Finally, at the end of the fellowship, all fellows will receive a certificate of completion to be awarded at the Fuse Fest end-of-year graduation ceremony. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to grab one of the Highlander Institute staff members or the SESD coach over the course of the 2-day bootcamp. And thank you for listening, and we look forward to working with you over the next year.